And look at that. Just like that, we are back. How was your holiday? How's it going? As always, now with a new year, 2022, it is Nate Mumford, Director of Sales Engineering here at RCS. We are so excited once again to kick off our RCS Live series after a slight little break. We'll be back again every Thursday, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, right here on, let's see, we got Facebook, we got Twitter Live, we got Twitch, and we got YouTube as well. So, of course, we have our chat open here, so you can be just like Seth here and say, good morning, Seth. How's it going? Morning, everybody. And so if you have any questions for me or for RCS, whoever it is, we'll have our chat here open live in real time for you, because today we're talking about the topic that nobody wants to talk about, the elephant in the room, and that is disaster recovery, redundancy, for 2022. So we'll dive just in that for a second. Yes, right, Matt? Good morning, Internet. How's it going, Matt? So first things first, a couple housekeeping points to talk about as always. As part of our 2022 disaster recovery, our goal here is to remind you and keep reminding you that, of course, insurance policies are not made to, cash in. I say after the fact, but you know what I mean? Like you don't get insurance after you break your leg. You get insurance before you break your leg. That's why we're here. Don't forget to check your backup paths. If you're in G Selector, you got those data exchanges with the RCS Cloud backup. That's really, really cool. You want to do those. I typically used to email myself every Monday or maybe Tuesday and Friday. I would send myself a data exchange. And again, we keep your most recent data exchange in our data exchange recovery console. It is call letter specific. So obviously you want to make sure you take some backups, have them there. And then of course, if anything ever happens to you, you can always go and reach out to RCS support or grab them through your own portal at rcsworks.com. If you log in there on the left-hand side, you'll see there's my data exchanges. That's what we're talking about here. And just since we're on the subject here, don't forget, if you ever miss-send a data exchange or something like that, you misspell something, it's not like anybody can just go and open your database. They need to be authorized to actually open that database. In addition to that, you can always grab it from your own portal over at rcsworks.com. If you're Zeta, make sure your overnight maintenance is working. Make sure that your content manager stores are online. Make sure backup paths are created. And if you have a sense of redundancy in the sense that you're taking that SQL backup and copying it to another location via Windows task or through kind of a Zeta task as well, just make sure that everything is landing correctly. We've had a couple users who, they put a USB drive in or something like that, or they unplug it, plug it back in, and it changes the name of the drive or something like that. So just, again, friendly reminder here, because the purpose of getting you back in these RCS lives is to not only, encourage best practices, but also make sure we got those backup paths working. Because, in the world right now, you got cryptoware, you got fires, floods, all of that stuff. Something's going to go bite you at some point in time. And we're, of course, here to help you. But to make our lives easier and your lives easier, help me, help you, help us take those backups there too. A couple of things as well. RCS has moved. I've actually seen the new office. Yeah, we moved across the street a little bit. We have a brand new state-of-the-art facility with a really cool demo room. We're going to do some RCS lives from there shortly. But again, we have moved, just so you know, again, to a brand new state-of-the-art office. Really, really excited for that. We will be at CRS, the Country Radio Seminar, at the end of February over in Nashville. So if you're curious about learning some G Selector stuff or Zeta or seeing some more RCS Cloud, let me know. We'll be there at the end of February. Don't forget about Feature Friday. We're always showcasing brand new features on Friday. Or if you have something you want to share your studio or something like that, we'd love to see it. Let us know. And beta users, don't forget, we have always looking for beta users. We got some really, really cool features coming down the pipeline. I've been kind of teasing it for about a year and a half now, but we're kind of really into the post-COVID production development here at RCS. So we're seeing a lot of those brand new user requests that we saw during COVID, remote features and Zeta to go and all of that. They're really starting to come to light in the brand new Zeta and G Selector build. So if you want to get into that beta program and test it, let us know. Reach out. put you in touch with the beta program. We can go from there as well. So let's dive into it. Ooh, the chats are back. Oh, let's see here. Wow, I got a lot of stuff in here. Boom. I'll look in just a second. Awesome. Yeah. Audible. Oh, let's just go right to the questions here for a second, right? We're saying don't forget your backup paths. That's definitely in there as well. To download Zeta, RJ, you're going to need to kind of reach out to us a little bit or have an RCS profile, just so you know. How far advanced can you schedule in your automation? Seth, great question. Really is a great question. No restrictions in G Selector in Zeta. If you were listening to us over in back in September, we were encouraging you to, there's nothing stopping you from, let's say, working on your Christmas logs in September, right? Both Zeta and in G Selector, you can schedule as far into the future as you want. It doesn't have to be concurrent either. Obviously, just be aware if you schedule advanced in G Selector, let's just say you break for 2 weeks and schedule, down the road. Yeah, obviously there's nothing to reference for score wise. It'll be a little bit difference there, but that's your one disclaimer. Nothing too complicated. And of course, if you ever have any questions, RCS support, phenomenal. They're here to help you out as well. And again, just for that CRS, that's February 23rd to the 25th in Nashville. Just so you know, 23rd, 25th in Nashville. We'll be there. If you have any questions and stuff like that, we can set some time with myself or whomever, if we can talk about anything you want to talk about, anything, right? Because RCS integrates. That's right. We take you from everything from music logs with G Selector, traffic logs with Acquira. Then we have Zeta for your sophisticated automation playout. We have Revma streaming. We have the RCS Cloud we're going to talk about today. And, of course, the RCS Academy in the mix there, too, as always. Yeah, RCS support at rcsworks.com, I should say, is always here for you, too. So here's what I want to talk about today, right? Again, the elephant in the room, disaster recovery and redundancy. Going to talk about a couple things here and bounce around. We've had a couple of videos in the past of our RCS Cloud, which you can see here. Again, module-based. This should look very much like a progression from Zeta to Go to Zeta Cloud, and that's because it is. That's what it is. So I have my on-air module here. I have my playlist or log module down below. I just want to bring up a voice track to show you here. There's a voice tracker here as well. Again, these are kind of synced together back and forth. I want to show you that too. You can continue to voice track with your RCS Cloud disaster recovery, right? Just for time purposes, I want to make sure you see that voice track, but I also want to show you some other ones. So I'll throw, let's say, the hotkeys on here for right now as well. So let's talk about disaster recovery. And there's multiple types of disaster recovery. Again, if you have any questions here, oh, thanks, Anthony. I love the love. I appreciate it. Any questions, let me know. I'm here for you, Anthony. So let's talk about disaster recovery, right? We talked about the backup paths already. We kind of covered that whole thing. If you have any questions, by the way, about if you're missing something there, again, support at rcsworks.com. We're here to help you out. Before I forget to, my levels, everything's looking good, right? I got a brand new laptop for 2022, so I'm switching everything over. So I want to make sure everything sounds okay for you. So what's a disaster recovery? Why do we have redundancy, right? The idea, of course, is we got cryptoware. That's kind of the biggest thing, in my opinion, right now, those cyber attacks. But of course, we always have just, typical things, right? We have fire, floods, natural disasters. Those are there. And then we have servers who are going down. You have, that 6-year-old server in the rack room you haven't looked at in 6 years. Yeah, it might, hard drive might fail, whatever it is. And of course, if you have your hardware through us, there are some redundancies we have in place. I want to make a note here. Notice that Nate voice track. I recorded that just this morning here. Notice that voice track playing right above here over that. Just want to make sure that's noted here. So what do? We have our backups. I talked about G Selector and the data exchanges and the Zeta backups, the content manager stores. You can have multiple content manager stores as well. But one of the great things we have here at RCS is the RCS Cloud. And phase 1 of RCS Cloud is disaster recovery. But one of the things, if you heard me say it a couple times now, right? And one of the things that we like to talk about is the future of radio. And yes, the future of radio is going to be the cloud. It's just kind of a compare where you are, right? News talk formats with satellite receivers and stuff like that. Absolutely. Those could be a little more hardware based, a little bit more down the road. But if you have music centric stations, if something like Billie Eilish comes out with a new album and you want to spin up a 24/7 Billie Eilish station for, let's say, a week? Yeah, we can totally do that. And it's easy with RCS Cloud. And so, one of the things I want to point out too, when we talk about disaster recovery, we're talking about the benefits for you, right? So, one of the great things is that you get your audio and your metadata in the cloud already. And so, as this begins to evolve, that we're seeing kind of right now, you already have your foot in the door with that RCS Cloud. So of course you have your stations backed up, which is phenomenal, and we'll talk about that. But in addition, you also kind of start being like, okay, this makes sense. You have your air chain already pre-planned. That includes, by the way, taking your encoder that is built in with RCS Cloud and send that to your transmitter site, right? Let's just say your server needs maintenance. Well, you have RCS Cloud there to kind of get you over that little maintenance hump if you want. You're not going to lose commercials and all of that. So one of the things we're getting to that point right now. When we talk about disaster recovery, we're right on the precipice of talking about RCS Cloud automation. So if you have questions with that, definitely reach out to your local RCS, your sales representative, support, whomever. And again, with disaster recovery, not only does it back up your files and all of your assets, but it gets your foot in the door as well, right? That makes sense to you? Absolutely. Right, Hans? I'm going through my Facebook here. Marcelo, any questions? Let me know. I see you, Seth and Shankar. Hey, what's going on? Brandon as well. Any questions on Facebook? Let me know. We're definitely here to help you out. So now that that's being said, let's talk about the actual process of RCS cloud-based disaster recovery. And you've seen this graph a couple times here. Kudos, by the way, to Amy and May and the rest of Corey and Diane, all the marketing department over there for doing just a phenomenal job on this. So this thing right here is just a great way to describe what is going on, right? And so we want to kind of give you a circle, but understand this is kind of an automatic process. We don't really expect you to do a lot here. So the normal workday, right? So what is getting sent up to your RCS cloud? That is going to be pretty much almost everything. That's your audio. That's going to be your logs. That's going to be your metadata and your SQL backups. That's automatic. We utilize a service called Zeta Site Replication. We talk about redundancy. We highly encourage our users to have an offsite at the transmitter site, just an additional Zeta system. And that's a kind of a linear workflow, right? We have market A or site A. We have transmitter site B. We use Zeta Site Replication, which is a Zeta service, important to note, that goes back and forth. You might hear other systems kind of talk about their cloud solutions, but what we're really talking about there is they take a lot of different pieces of different companies, combine them into one, and kind of put a bow on it for the package. Here at RCS, we designed all of these features already, and we're utilizing our own services to then go connect multiple sites. And that's going to essentially really make it a little more secure, right, DP? Makes sense? So far, so good, right? So the idea is that we're not looking at external services. Everything's kind of built into the RCS world, right? And so if we have the typical site with the transmitter site replicated back and forth, we're going to then take RCS Cloud, and instead of linear, it's vertical. We send it up to the cloud. The only difference there is when we talk about RCS Cloud, it's written for and on Amazon Web Services, following best practices and securities. And again, it's a piece of software we wrote for Amazon Web Services. So if you're a little bit of a cloud guru, you know there's containers there in the cloud. We essentially have the software on a container. We partition your specific disaster recovery into that container, and that's where we access your data. And that's how we go back and forth using Zeta Site Replication. There's securities there in place, including login informations. Again, different sources, different Linux systems versus Windows systems. You know, everyone will tell you, nobody is 100% protected from everything. That's pretty much impossible. So what we do here at RCS, knowing that disaster recovery is very important, redundancy, these cyber attacks, is we make things very, very difficult for those hackers to get in. So I'm not going to tell you the things we do right now, but I will tell you that there is a completely, about maybe like 8 months to a year ago, we started doing an initiative to really enhance security across all of our products. As I mentioned, we have those services that are built in, right? We improve those. talking about some of the content management stores, making sure we have better access to the audio files, the metadata files, and the schedules. We have Windows Active Directory in there too for logins. So there's a lot of things that we're doing behind the scenes. And again, I'm not going to tell you these things. Take my word for it. Obviously, it sounds like, okay, Nate, you're saying we're doing stuff, but I think you can trust RCS that when I tell you we're doing some things in security, yeah, we're really doing some things in security here. So the idea is that we want to make things more complicated with different paths, different securities, different files, different locations to make things more complicated for these hackers to save you. That's the idea, right? So again, Zeta certification. We have the Zeta Cloud up here. Everything gets sent over. Your audio, logs, voice tracks, backups, all that good stuff. Disaster strikes. Again, this could be cryptoware. This can be a natural disaster, some of those lines as well. I see RJ. I got it. Make a mental note of that, RJ. Thank you. And so what you can do here is essentially think of a cryptoware cyber attack. And I've been there a couple times, not with the cyber attacks per se, but essentially back when I was, a PD, kind of jack of all trades here. When something happened, to give your team, your network IT engineering team, a chance to properly assess the situation, they're going to really find those details. I know there's one example for a client of ours where essentially they had a machine in the engineering office that was plugged into the network underneath a desk. And when they had a cryptoware attack, they unplugged the entire network. They had things in place, redundancy in place. Everything was all fine. But as the network was trying to get fixed, they had this rogue machine and they couldn't figure out where it was because it was hidden, plugged in accidentally underneath a bench, right? Stuff like that. And of course, by being calm and collective and knowing they're on the air, not having the OM and the PD and the sales manager being like, Nate, we're missing commercials. We're off the air. The world is ending. No. Here's what we do, right? So again, disaster strikes. We're going to enable the cloud. Step 4, make sure 5 is stored in your database, but I want to start showing you some of these things, right? So I'm going to jump here from my on-air module to my system monitor. And so we talk about giving your IT team a chance to assess the situation. We're talking about, okay, we got a cryptoware virus attack. Go on my laptop, go to my phone. Obviously, if it's your laptop on the network, I get it. Go to your phone, right? Go to your RCS us.zetacloud.com. That's going to have your username and password, email, 2-factor authentication, which is going to then give you your access to your system inside of RCS Cloud. Again, written for and on AWS. And then from there, we go to the system monitor and we drop this down here. Now, my player's running 24/7. So where you see redeploy, you're going to essentially see something like deploy, which is going to essentially deploy those stations, take those stations online. The way it works is all of your sequencers. So you can see I got Hot AC, Top 40, Classic Rock, all of that. All of these stations right now are going to show you the health of these sequencers. Typically speaking, because it is disaster recovery, we're going to have these sequencers on, but not really enabled, right? They're kind of in queue. We're not going to be playing everything, but we'll have them in queue. If you want to have them playing 24/7 in unison, we do have some options for you there too. Again, reach out to RCS Sales. We'll help you out with those kind of situations, those specific situations. But what we're doing here is really just kind of having it in tandem, getting ready so when anything does happen, we're going to deploy it instantly, right? So the idea is we enable this player, jump back over here to the on air, right? See where we are in the hour. We load Zeta Cloud and RCS Cloud hour by hour. We do have a little bit longer like Zeta to go. But of course, if you're like, 11:21, we want to make sure that we want to get the next element queued up. And then again, we can always right click down here. You can see where we are, right click. We can do a sync to selection, hit that play next button, and we're good to go, right? Now, at that point in time, in a matter of seconds, not minutes, but seconds, we're back on the air. We have our commercials playing. We have our music playing. We can continue to voice track remotely with RCS Cloud. We have our hotkeys over the air. Our commercial traffic is there. Awesome. Do it with me now. Ready? Let's address this cryptoware attack. I can't express that enough. The chance you can take a break in doing that is really just very, very important because again, attention to detail is important for your team to assess the situation, right? So at this point in time, we're just live, right? We're just live in RCS Cloud and we're playing music, we're playing spots. You can see down here again, on-air module, playlist module. You can scroll down and see additional options that are here. This is not played yet. We have the hotkeys here. I can go to the library and drag hotkeys over. I can tab these two side by side if I wanted to as well. Grab that and maybe do something like the library module. Open that up over here. This has all my assets. This is linked to my system back in the new White Plains demo room. So that's what I have here. That's where my data comes from. I can double click on this element, loading the asset card here as well. Again, this is locally cached audio. So in case you're curious, this is Nate in Connecticut locally opening up his RCS Cloud, which is synced to his system over in New York. So this is a locally cached audio. I'd click on that to download it. I see my sine wave. I can put my marks in if I'm adding new music, see some extra station-specific data. That's in here as well. I got my activations on the top left as well. So if we're adding new assets, again, add new asset, that's here for you. So you can continue to add that audio, right? So the idea is you're continuing to operate in your RCS Cloud remotely. And because it is a URL, important to note, that's not going to be an app or a download or whatever it is. It's going to be a true URL. So Chrome, Firefox, Safari, Edge, Mac, Windows, the whole world is your oyster in regards to that, right? If you wanted to. So, and again, any questions so far in this, let me know. We're talking about prepping you for 2020 and disaster recovery and redundancy with RCS Cloud. That's the goal for today. So any questions, throw them out there. I got my chat open here as well. I can see RJ and all that good stuff. So again, we're really just operating as is. We're adding audio, we're voice tracking, we're doing our thing. There are some options here, by the way, for to stream live. You have a morning show. Typically, we want to make sure our downtime is in hours and not days and weeks. However, if there is an issue where we're going to be offline for an extended period of time, we can definitely work with you here in RCS support. I'm not going to bore you with the subtle details, but I mean, at minimum, we can copy schedules. We can do a G selector and a VM in the cloud and connect the two. There's a lot of things we can do. But again, the idea there, that's a really like emergency situation. Think of the RCS Cloud as a gap to get you over that hump, be it, of course, hours or days. But if it's a weeks, maybe not so much, right? So again, you can see here, Anthony, tablets, iOS, absolutely. I have Chrome on my Windows here. So that's going to take my normal Windows defaults. I have just my Focusrite DBX USB interface here. That's my Windows default. That's what I'm recording into my Zeta RCS Cloud. So absolutely tablets and iOS. Great question there. Seth was saying examples of disasters. Another great question. So CryptoWare is, I think, right now the most prominent one, in my opinion. But if you get a fire at your facility, a flood, earthquake, hurricane, you look at examples of Texas in the flood. That was a big thing. We had one example, actually, of an actual user who did RCS Cloud. There were, I'm trying to figure out how to say this politically without getting myself in trouble. Let's just say, okay, I'm going to adapt this just slightly. There was an incident involving a crime outside the studios, and they essentially could not get access to the studio. The police cut off the studios. So any new midday on-air talent, salespeople could go in the studios. They allowed engineers to kind of pop in, make sure things were online. But essentially, the police cut off the building. That's what happened. And so, crazy enough, they both used Zeta to Go and RCS Cloud to continue to voice track and operate their station. So even though it's not a disaster per se, there's just weird quirkiness like that does happen. Again, servers dying. Another example of I say disaster there, but servers do die. You can just launch up RCS Cloud. And sometimes not even disasters, Seth. They can also just be, part of your package for disaster recovery is you get 6 hours every month of maintenance and stuff. So you might just want to schedule an upgrade for both Windows or Zeta or whatever it is. And then engineers can go at 2 o'clock in the morning or 10 o'clock at night, whatever your time is for upgrading. They can swap over to RCS Cloud, get the entire network updated, switch back, and you're golden too. So again, we say disasters, but there's so many different cases that you can utilize RCS Cloud. Trying to think of anything I missed here. I showed the voice tracker very, very early on in this. I showed that there too. You can voice track. You can add assets into here. We did the hotkeys. Drag and drop through here is also well. I can drag into the log module if I wanted to, or the on-air module. Showed you the system monitor. That's there. There is layouts here as well. So I can go and take these layouts and, have, let's say, station-specific layout like here. Or I can have my own modules and layouts all nice and neat. That's there for you too. I can always open modules and just kind of have them floating or docked into my layout, just like traditional Zeta. That's there. We have some report options, some user configurations in here too as well. Again, we're kind of blending that line, as you heard me say, between RCS Cloud Automation and RCS Cloud Disaster Recovery. And as I said earlier, one of the great things is we're getting very close to that line is starting to become a little more fluid. And so with disaster recovery, you can not only back up your assets, your audio, metadata, schedules, voice tracks, backups, but then, of course, on top of that, you can also start to maybe incorporate some automation stuff. We're not there just yet, but when you get your foot in the door and you're already there, you have the air chain already designed. One thing I just want to point out here under the config, under stations, if you have the way this whole process works is we have essentially players and encoders that are inside of RCS Cloud. So you can see here from your dropdown, we have all these types of encoding. I know I have some users like to ask this. PCM, AAC, FLAC, MP3, Opus, OGG, AAC. Those are in there. We have the bit rates as well, depending on what kind of format you have. That's in there too. Yes, just so you know, we do bill you on bandwidth. However, if you're doing a traditional disaster recovery, a one-to-one relationship, that bandwidth is not going to be anywhere outside of the norms of the defined budget inside or defined contract you have. This is a way for us to prevent it. So if you do 320 and you use that link to all 300 of your listeners, then we'll have a conversation. Notice, by the way, Nielsen watermarking. A lot of great new features in there as well. And of course, you can always flip this and turn it into a server. Or sorry, technically it's a server first. I flipped my RCS Cloud. I have this going to my Revma, and I have my Revma pushing out multiple bit rates out as well. So some cool things you can do with Revma in Zeta Cloud. Typically, from what I've heard from our clients, they took a barracks box, they put it on a self. We have a lot of unique clients of ours that has, let's say, like a Sound 4 box or some type of little player they can put it on, or they put it in their transmitter site. I know a lot of transmitters these days have an option for a backup URL. We'll just take that URL, put it at that transmitter site. Boom, you're on the air. Seth, I see you there. I'm gonna take that offline because it's a little bit of a loaded question there, Seth, but I do see you. We have some live metadata for the metadata export RDS there. That's in there too. But again, I want to show you here this actual encoder, right? What you can do with it. So when we're talking about broadcasting, it's going to encoder, going to a URL. Where you want to put that URL is up to you. But for spinning up stations left and right down the road, I mean, it's just an encoder. Where do you want to put it? Put it on your website. But, again, having that Billie Eilish 24/7 station on the fly for a week, we can definitely discuss that as well. All right. I'm nearing just about the end of my time. So I'm going to tell you right now, because I know there's a little bit of a delay. If you have a question for me, ask it right now. That way I give you a little time to type it up. I can answer it properly for you. So if you got a question about disaster recovery, question about RCS Cloud or RCS Cloud Automation, definitely let me know right now. Now is time to ask your questions before we sign off, okay? So again, module-based, on-air, playlist, library. You can voice track. That's all in here. I'll show one more time the example of the workflow. Everyday workflow, just going right up to your RCS Cloud. That includes, of course, again, audio, logs, voice tracks, backups. Disaster strikes, we enable the cloud from our phone. At that point in time, we have the SQL backups. Restore those computers with their original names, restore the SQL backup, and we're back online. Zeta is also smart enough and sophisticated enough that we'll go and we'll restore each element starting based on the hour. So for example, it's 11:30. If we get the machines back online, we'll start with the 12 o'clock hour, whatever the next upcoming hour is, and we'll start loading the audio from there. So for example, we'll have essentially the first song in the 12 p.m. hour will get loaded up. Then the next one into the 1 a.m., 2 p.m., 3 p.m., so on and so forth. So it's dynamic in regards to that, which is pretty cool. Right? Makes sense. I'm just looking over here to make sure I'm missing anybody. Right, Marcelo? Right, makes sense. And so again, at that point in time, we're at number 5. We restore our database. We're back online. Go back to your RCS Cloud. Go to your system monitor over here. And then all we're doing is just saying, okay, well, go back offline, right? Or I guess in queue. I don't want to say offline because again, it's running in tandem. I don't want to confuse you there. Again, we just go back to idle mode and we're good to go, right? It's here, backing up your audio, backing up your assets, and all of that good stuff. Seth, when can you schedule questions? Hey, it's always a good exercise. If you're an RCS client, Seth, don't forget, you can always reach out to support@rcsworks.com. It's part of your contract. We're here to help you out. If you're not an RCS client and you're looking for RCS products, RCS sales is going to be your best bet. I'll poke you on Facebook, Seth, after this, and we'll kind of go through and I'll put you in touch where we need to be. So again, if you are an RCS client, support's here to help out for you. You can email them, you can call them. If not, I'll get you in touch with an RCS sales rep, wherever your local one is. And of course, you'll probably come back to me anyway, and we'll have some more conversations, Seth. So totally good, but totally get the question. Thank you for checking in as well. Really appreciate it. These are all great questions, by the way. Great questions. So yeah, again, last call for questions. Don't forget about our archive. I think I have that here. Yeah. rcsworks.com/RCS-live. Some great videos on there. It's an entire archive of every video we've done here with RCS. And so again, any kind of topics you're curious about, they're probably in there. We got some really, really cool features for 2022, some updated ones, as well as some great interviews and conversations. We're going to have some really fun topics to kind of show and really kind of get you, I wouldn't say out of your comfort zone, but get you some great things to kind of talk about and get your mind working, right? That's the idea. Again, RCS Live. How do you know how to do something if no one told you about it in the first place? Right? Right? Absolutely. So thank you, Seth. We'll be back again next Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern time. Check out for these events. We'll go to some reminders out the week prior so you can see exactly what's coming down. Don't forget to follow us on all of our social medias. And as I said, we're live on Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, and Twitter Live. If we're missing one that you want, let us know and we'll connect it, right? So I am Nate. I'll see you next Thursday for RCS Live. Have a fantastic week and weekend. Be happy, safe, and all that good stuff. Bye-bye, everybody.